Hello everyone. So this is our AI at the Beach session. And we have a very special guest today, a friend. We've known each other for a few years. We met through an organization called Chief for executive women in the US, became friends. So when I reached out to Tancredi and say, I'm looking for some excellent speakers for this series, can you do it? And
absolutely.
yes. So let's enjoy this presentation. It's going to be fabulous. I had an honor to preview it. It's going to be very useful, and you can ask questions. So let's begin.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Eugenia said, I'm Tancredi Edwards. I am the CEO and founder of TR Edwards Consultancy. And we focus on empowering small businesses with automations. We typically don't leverage a lot of off-the-shelf automations because we are trying to be very specific to what that end user might need. I'll give you an example. So I'm working with a major festival in Charleston, and they have tons and tons of papers coming in from their vendors, from their chefs, you name it. Beverage, all the things, paper. And they're using a lot of Google Forms, Gravity Forms. They have a local CRM system, Copper. It's a smaller CRM system. It's not like a Salesforce. So there's not a lot of feature development or integrations. So we are working to automate all of those forms that they are receiving. We have one person in their office that receives over 400 forms between September and late October, 400 forms. And she has to handle all that data and then push it into their CRM system. So right now we've got a working prototype where we have been able to connect with their CRM system, with their website. So when the forms are received, we send it to our server, we extract the raw data, we clean it, structure it, and we push it back to their CRM system. So when she logs in, she just sees the forms. It's magic. And so I sell time. That's what I sell. Because I'm giving you a lot of time back because I'm automating all the things that may not be automated with some of the examples that I'm showing today. Today, we're going to focus on no-code automation. So what I just described to you in that example with the food and wine festival, it's a lot of custom automations. It requires a developer. We've got a whole team and a whole process. But what I want to, enact with you today and leave you with, and I see some of you have your computers, and I'm glad that you have them because you can start logging in and actually setting up an account and doing some of this yourself. I want to show you how to do no-code automation. So if you have a lot of emails in your inbox, like how do I triage the inbox and get it to a place where it's manageable, and I've got, some workflows going, or I've done some custom, maybe not light custom, automations where forms come into my website and then it goes to a Google Sheet, and I've got a little bit of process behind that so I can see when people sign up for the newsletter, if people purchasing a book or whatever it might be. So that's what we're going to do today. Any initial comments or questions, or are there interests to lean into other areas outside of no-code automation? I'm happy to talk AI in general as well. All right, so one thing that we at TR Edwards Consultancy really focus on is putting you first and putting people first in terms of keeping the automation simplistic. That use case I shared earlier. Really wanted, I'm going to use Jenna as the name, I really wanted Jenna to just have a lighter experience in her workday and not have to think about coming in and, oh my gosh, I've got 400 forms to go through, and am I going to fat finger something or get something wrong? Like, we really want to center people in all that we are creating, the solutions that we're creating, whether it's no code or a code solution for automations. So you can think about, being able to focus on higher value tasks. That's what automations do for you. Because Jenna doesn't need to be moving data from one system to the next. Like Jenna needs to be interacting with the vendors and making sure that they're good. You know, maybe even sourcing additional vendors for the Food and Wine Festival, right? We want to eliminate the repetitive busy work. So again, that's just busy work, and it takes it off of their plate. They are not a large team, so we focus on small to mid-sized businesses where, you know, you might have a small budget for AI strategy and AI automations, but you don't have the budget for bringing on someone and the health benefits and all the things. So that's the same instance for this very small team. They may be a team of 10. If one person's got, you know, a massive amount of forms to go through, if we can lighten that load, then she can focus on other things and supporting the festival in general. Reducing the mental fatigue, the human error, we talked about that, and then being able to scale your operations with these types of solutions. So that's our philosophy as an organization, and what I wanted to kind of get in your brains today is I want you to start thinking in this moment. So either grab a piece of paper, or if you are a digital note taker, create, I always do a notepad because I do code and I do draft like code in a notepad, but you can pull up a notepad, you can pull up a Word document, clean sheet, and start thinking about this acronym, RIPE. So this will be your framework that we're gonna leverage today so that we can go through like what are some examples of things that you could automate and be successful at doing. Now, the reality of it is some of the things you might want to automate are going to, they may require custom code, and some of it may not, right? But at least if you are writing down a list of things and doing it leveraging this framework, you can always go back to that list and reprioritize the list. So, right, it stands for repetitive inner application, so more than one application or internal, predictable and exhausting. I get tired of even saying exhausting. Every time I say that word, I'm just like, oh, like, you know, it's a lot. When you're having to do the same things over and over again, you know, and you're thinking to yourself, there has to be a tool that can solve for all of this. So to lean into repetitive, the example I have there, so manually copying customer information from one submission form into a CRM system. I'm using this example specifically because these are the things that we're helping our current clients with. We are really getting them away from all of that manual inputs. Inner application, so for inner application, so transferring information from emails into spreadsheets or a task management tool. This happens a lot, you know, if you're trying to have a newsletter, you know, and you want to bring that information to a spreadsheet and then put it into your newsletter system. Like, it could be different than your CRM system. That's the instance for me. I have a CRM system and then I push my newsletter through my website. So a lot of connectivity and a lot of opportunity for error. And then predictability. So sending follow-up emails with the same template with customer purchases could be an example there. So how do you create that consistency, especially as you're learning a little bit more about your customer or your clients? Where are they in your funnel? How might you want to nurture them? But if you have that nurturing sequence on repeat and it's templatized, then you're able to do that. And you can leverage this kind of thought process for that sales funnel with no-code automations as well. And then exhausting as well. So like compiling weekly reports. I actually have another client that's in the energy sector and they love a weekly report. It's a little outdated because we work in an agile process. They are attending the stand-ups, but they love the weekly report. So as we're doing the stand-ups, I turn on my meeting notes, and then I have built an automation. It's a no-code automation where it actually aggregates the meeting notes, and then just summarizes that and then sends it to the person. So she gets that in her inbox every week. I don't have to touch it. And I'm not feeling annoyed. Yes.
That was written or audio?
Say the meeting notes? Yes, it is written notes.
Okay.
So when you're doing like your Zoom meetings, you can download like Otter AI or some of the other note-taking features. That's the one that we use the most. I've used others. And what it does is just digitizes everything that everybody says, but it summarizes it in a nice way. So you get an overall summary and then you get specifics. If there were any key takeaways, action items, Tanqueray said she was going to share the weekly report by Monday at 5 p.m. or Tanqueray said that she was going to follow up with X vendor. It captures all of those things and summarizes it and sends it to you in your inbox. And then I take those summarizations with a no-code automation and summarize it even more, condense it down, and then automatically send that to the leader for this particular project. Yeah, it makes it really easy. That I don't mind taking notes, but like I'm thinking to myself, you were in the meeting. Like, why are we having to do the weekly reports? And you're getting the summaries that I'm getting on a daily basis because it's a daily stand-up. So it's just one way to cut that out, cut the noise out, and they get what they want, and I'm happy.
If there's dates involved, will it trigger the dates or do anything specific, like recognize, hey, it's a date?
Yeah, it will categorize by dates, but then, like I said, you can build automations to do more with those meeting minutes. That is an excellent use case for the no-code automations, and I love that. So, two tools that I am using, and we'll talk about this now before I go into here. So I set this QR code up. Just to show you how this works. I'll show you how it's working on the back end from my website. No pressure on signing up for my newsletter, but you can scan it and you put your name in there. It sends an email to me. It puts you onto a Google Sheet, and that's the kind of back end stuff that I'm going to share with you. But before we jump there, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions. Because now my expectation is I'm going to flip the slide back. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to work through the RIPE framework. And then we're going to start jumping into these steps. And you're going to create an automation if you have your computers, or we can also create it live on screen. Just so that you can see how it's done, and then if you want to mimic what I am doing as well, I encourage you to follow along. Does that make sense? Perfect. All right, so questions, comments? Okay, so I do want this to be, let me go back. There we go. Nope. Here we go. So what are top 10, or even top 5 things that you're doing repetitively? I want you to take some time and think about what those things are. Write them down as you think about your workday. You may have like an email bucket, you may have a calendar bucket, you may have social media bucket if you're engaging in social media or LinkedIn. But just think about some of the tasks that you're doing over and over and over again. And there's some statistics out there that say over 1/3 of our week is mostly administrative tasks. So think about those administrative tasks and write those things down. And so I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. I'm going to log into a few of the systems that I'm using so I can show you what it looks like behind the scenes, and then we'll also create a small Zapier so that I can, show you real time what it looks like. All right, so you're working on your list, and then I want to hear from you on like what are some of the things that came up on your list. We may be able to pick one of those things and create a Zap. So Zapier is one of the programs. I'm gonna take the screen off for a second, just so that's not distracting you as you're collecting your thoughts on your list. And then it'll give me a moment to sign in. And feel free to ask questions too. personal zaps, I have professional zaps, so I do try to keep them separate as best as I can. And what do I mean by zap? Has anybody heard of Zapier before? No? Okay, so we can start with the introduction of what that is when the screen comes up. So this is, let me hit the home screen. So Zapier is a no-code automation tool. So what no-code means is, and I saw the look in your eye, I was like, I'm gonna explain what this means. No-code is, oh, you're welcome. It does not require computer language, right? Either Python or some other computer language to actually make the thing work. They have established a number of templates within this application where you can use the templates, follow their directions. They also have AI embedded within the tools to help you walk through these step by step. So you just pick a tool based on what you want to do, pick a template rather, based on what you want to do, and then you walk step by step. Anyone ever worked on like graph paper?
Graph paper?
Yeah. So I know we're probably dating ourselves, but Zapier, and I love that about it because I'm a very structured person, and I love that when you start a new Zap, so Zapier, you're starting a new Zap. And when you start a new Zap, it's almost like you have a sheet of graph paper. So let's say we want to create one. And they have a number of options. I would first start with Zaps. So you can't see the little dots on the screen, but if you were to look at my computer screen, you would see that there are little dots. It looks like a little graph paper. And what you're really doing is writing a process flow. So if you think about wanting to create a no-code automation for emails, you are in essence going to think end to end, what is the outcome that you want? Where do I want the emails to go? What do I want it to do? Or if I am asking you to sign up for the newsletter, where do I want those signups to go? And then what am I going to do with that information? So ultimately, I want the signups to go to my Google Sheet, and then I can add from the new list, the new rows that come in to my database for my newsletter. So this is, what the screen is that you see when you first go in, and then a few terminologies that are basic to Zaps. I'll also log into Make.com as well. It's a different software, but it has a different look and feel. Yes.
From the prior class, which the other lady presented, so there's costs associated with all these AI things, and she spoke about if you're just a general user, so where does this fall into that?
Yeah, so for this one, on my personal, I've upgraded to Pro and I may be saying that in reverse. I think I'm saying it in reverse. My professional, I have Pro, and my personal, I'm just using the basic, service for Zapier. But what that is like, it limits what you're able to do. If I want to get into some more sophisticated no-code automations, I'm not going to be able to do it with their basic plan. I have to at least pay like $19 a month. I think it's the cost for a Pro plan for Zapier. And then Make.com is another similar software where the look and feel is a little different. If you're less structured and more creative, I think Make.com fits your persona. It's just my feedback because it makes it look very friendly and fun. I'm gonna log into it too so you can see the difference. Let's say a little prayer on this password. I've been trying to keep them fresh, but we'll see. Let me explain this and then we'll go back to Make.com. So with all of the systems, there is a few key steps, right? You're looking at your process from end to end. Where do you start? Where do you end? Whether you're using Zapier for a Zap or Make for a no-code automation. There's a basic step of trigger. So the trigger is in essence, like if you're old school process mapping person, trigger is your box, just the regular box. It's not a decision where you have a diamond. That's why I like Zap, because that's how I think, like a process flow. So you'll have a trigger. Where do you start? And it's like the event that starts your automation. So for me, the new form is submitted, and I'll also show the back end of my Google Sheets so you could see if anybody did sign up, you'll see where it came in as a row, and then you'll see where that can be your automation, that it just comes in as a row, and then it takes it and pulls it over to my newsletter. So you could do sheet for sheet automation, you can do sheet to a CRM if there is integrations embedded within that, but it all starts with a trigger. Yes.
So not to get off track, but why do you have it go into a sheet first? Is that for you to be able to audit the data, makes sense, instead of it goes straight to, why do you have it as a stop point?
Good point. I do it that way so that I can review who's submitting it, and then if they've submitted something, they'll get an automated email, especially for my contact list for my website.
Yes.
I may even want to follow up with them if we've had some subsequent conversation. So it is not just house information for everybody who's looking at my website. It could also be a part of my sales funnel. And how do I want to nurture that person? Have I had conversations with them about my business, and they're more open to buying now as opposed to being open 6-8 months from now. So for me, it's more of a little check and balance and just see where they are in terms of a sales funnel.
Okay.
No. But you could, if the integration is available, and that is a key word, because with Make.com and with Zapier, I'll go back to that screen in a second, you will see it integrates with MailChimp. It integrates with so many different systems, but then there are a number that they do not. So my website is Squarespace, and there's not a lot of integrations right now. I'm sure that will change. So that limits my no-code options. So that's one thing to consider when you're choosing your tool. And when I say choosing your tool, choosing between a Zapier and choosing between Make. Let's figure out what's happening here, because I am on the internet. And that's not coming up, because I'm doing a live demo, of course.
Hey, that's the way it always happens.
Murphy's Law.
Right?
So trigger is the first step. Again, what's the event that you want to automatically happen the first time? It could be emails received, new calendar event, someone scheduled some time, new form submission. And then your logic. Logic is optional. For me, you could leverage logic for filtering that data. You could format that information. It could also make some decisions where to move the information. And then your action, so that again, your automation could be very lengthy. It could be 3 steps, it could be 10 steps. But for no-code automation, my best practice is less is more, because it just has less opportunity to break the chain between different pieces. So for action, it is just that. You're adding information to a spreadsheet, you're sending emails, you're creating a task, or you're posting notifications. Does that make sense? Any other questions on the simple actions that you would take? And so when we go back to our Zapier, you'll see those same steps. We could add some logic in here if we wanted to, but we can keep it pretty simple as well. So who is actually logging in and gonna walk through this at the same time? I just wanna make sure I keep an eye on you, because I don't want the technology to be a frustration point. All right, so let me log into Make. Again, still automation. my system's not liking this one. Come on. Talk to it nice. Is the key. So this is, again, very different look and feel. It gives you, you know, what you've used it for. You can upgrade, it's almost like a points credit system, and that is really dependent on what level you've purchased into, and the more credits you have, the more that you can do within the tool. I like this because it has tons and tons of templates. Feels a little bit more user-friendly, but I also have an affinity for the graph look as well. So like, you can search if you wanted anything related to emails. You can search for what templates involve emails. So I want to send a Gmail from, you know, an email, a Google email from a spreadsheet that I created. And you would click that template, and then that would be the basis for your Make. The other thing I like about Make, it has a guided prompt. So it's going to tell you step. This guided prompt is telling us what we need to do. We can make this work now. I'm going to just play with this one. So for this one, we are sending, we're sending a Gmail from a Google Sheet row. So let's pull up our Google Sheet. Let's see which one we want to use. Let's try this one. All right. So you would set up, so like if you have people signing up for a newsletter or whatever, they would sign up, their names would hit this spreadsheet in particular. And then you would need the name of your spreadsheet in order to connect it all. So that's why I opened up my Google Sheet. Say I want to add a connection here. I'm already signed in, but it would ask you for your credentials. Let's see, it's the personal. I usually read through these privacy pieces because sometimes you can elect what you want to share. Maybe you don't want to share your entire drive and emails and content and connect. So, you know, read through this. And this is where you would elect like what you want to share. So I'm going to select all. All right, so now my Gmail is connected to Make. And then for spreadsheet file, I'm gonna connect here and see what comes up. Let's find newsletter articles. That's helpful that it knows. It's because it's connected to my Gmail and it's connected to that drive. It understands where it's looking. And I don't think I have a sheet name. Yeah, I do, article summary. My sheet has headers, which means that the first row has some naming. So that's a yes, and then you would hit continue. And if you wanted to inquire about so when I hit continue, inquire questions that it's asking you within. I think Make has this, let me see. There is an AI, oh, I'm not seeing it though. Maybe it's the ones that you make from scratch. Some of them have like an AI tool that's embedded within it, so you can ask it questions like, what do you ask, what does this mean? What is, the question that you're asking doesn't make sense to me, what does this mean? So then it's just, again, reconnecting to the email. Giving it access, it already has 2 connections to the service.
Oh, I guess you have to use your business one, it's not like
Yeah,
at Gmail.
yeah.
Interesting. I bet they've gotten a lot of spammers that way, just having generic at
Emails.
Gmail,
Yeah.
using that.
All right, so then it's Article A, so let's read through these steps. So what happens with this particular automation, it hits the spreadsheet and it's sending an email. And it's sending an email from my Tanqueray at TR Edwards Consultancy. So I'm gonna go in the spreadsheet, play with it, put some data, and then we'll see it come through. That's what ideally is supposed to happen. And why is this helpful? Again, if you're collecting a database for a newsletter, you're aggregating a database from an event, you wanna send some personalized messaging, and I'm thinking about Greg here and his financial hat on. If you are, at a booth collecting information for someone who's interested in life insurance, he works for New York Life. This might be a way for them to sign into a tablet, put all their information there electronically, and then you can just send them a templatized thank you note, right? This would be one of those use cases. All right.
So we're assuming like the Google Sheet is being fed from another source, and now we're doing kind of the last leg of
Yes,
the
yes,
workflow that is the emails going out.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect. So email address, let's see, map this to email address column of your sheet. So let's check the sheet, make sure. So it says article title. I definitely need to change this. Not the right, or I can just, let's start a new sheet. And I'm gonna say test, because I will definitely come back and clean this up. So let's say email address. You might want first name. And we might want last name. And then there may be some other like descriptors that you want. So then I go back to my make, and I'm gonna have to go back to step 2. I'm gonna have to select the different sheet that I just created. Email test. Y'all understood why I did that? Yep. Headers, all that stuff is still there. So then email address. So this is gonna watch for any of the data that's coming into the sheet for the following like rows. It's gonna watch for, right now it says article title. Let's get out of this and refresh. This should have changed, it did not. Yeah, it's still picking up from the old sheet. Let's see. Let's do, make sure that this is connected. It's got a header.
Maybe you need to reconnect your email address. I mean Gmail.
Yeah, let's try. Yep, it came through. Genius. Brilliant. But then it's still showing the other, content, not sure why. So address, you could do an address 2, but it really would just be the rows. And what this should be doing is having these like A2, A3, but I'm not seeing that come over. We've got all of the old data that's coming over.
You cannot pick which file you're,
Yeah, I should be able to. Let's try to refresh again here. Let's do this. I'm gonna play now, just see what happens. And I'm gonna leave the subject the same, which means the subject of the email that would come over would say summary B.
Okay.
It says it is functioning, so let's run the scenario. Alright, so it says that it's working. So what I will do is add information in here, and then I will check my email and see if I'm getting any emails. So I'm just gonna send it to myself, see if that works.
And as you're doing that, does it give you like a read, or like, not a read, a done, some type of notification, like in your spreadsheet that lets you know that it actually got sent? I mean, I know you set the automation, but is there a way, without going into your sent in your work email?
It should send you an email letting you know that the automation is working and that you received,
Okay,
some, an input file to
so
you.
you're not always having to go in and
No.
making sure it's happening? Okay.
You should
perfect.
not. It will also send you emails if things are broken,
Okay,
which has happened to me quite often. Sometimes, I looked at that.
so there's accountability measures in place so that you're notified.
Can I use your email?
Sure, but I won't be able to check because I'm recording. You wanna use yours?
I can.
Please.
gnichols350@gmail.
G
NICHOLS
NICHOLS
350
350.
@gmail.
Oh, gmail.com.
Yep.
Good catch.
Okay. So we got some data. So operation failed with an error on parameters. You gotta love live
Right.
demonstrations. Let's see what it says. Okay, what it did, it updated the rows. Yep. That's what it did. Good. So I need to get rid of this because it wasn't supposed to be a row, it should be email, right? And subject, not really sure if I have a preference with subject. Maybe first, we'll leave that, content is C, it doesn't matter. But you can see that you can put in content, you can put in a template for Embro C if you wanted to, what you want the email to say. So this is good. It's actually catching some of the mistakes that I did the earlier time. It's not letting me move forward without fixing them. So, just try to refresh. We don't have any exclamation points. That's another good thing I like about Make, which is excellent. So then let's move to email. So all the alerts that it's setting me up.
Did you get the email?
Not yet.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
So it just said Edwards. But if I wanted to put more into it, you know, I could put in like that templatized. Thank you for stopping by my booth on Saturday, or, you know, glad you're interested in protecting your family, blah, blah, blah. And I know some of this language because my husband shares the same profession as Greg. So, you know, you could just put in those kinds of things. And it really helps with getting you going. In this instance, you're creating that sales funnel, and you can absolutely add more steps if you want to add more steps. But the thought, again, to go back to our presentation, I need to do one for, as you can see, for my inbox, because it's messy and it's a lot, and I have 2 or 3 inboxes. So I can definitely benefit from some automations myself. Question in the back.
So, when you're inputting that information, as we all know, you know, let's say we're using the example of a booth or something like that, people will fat finger the email, don't have their glasses, and again, you're trying to automate and make the world a better place for your business. I did see that it did trigger, there was an error or something, it
Yep.
gave you, now if somebody put the wrong, let's say Nichols, you did it Nick, which is the wrong email, would it tell you real time that, hey,
No,
you're gonna lose that
unfortunately, it's not.
because you're gonna lose that customer?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not, which is why I have it go to the spreadsheet, because I don't want to go directly to my CRM or to my newsletter database, because I don't want the junk in those systems. So if you are at the booth, and, you know, I would probably, you know, stand with that person, because you're having a conversation with them, you know, and validate that.
I believe I'll just ask
Ask
them for
them,
their
can you
information
verify
and
that this
input it
is-
myself.
Yeah,
Right.
that this is correct, yeah. That way you can kind of reduce the opportunity for error. But that's an excellent point. It will not catch, you know, errors in the emails, and things like that. So you gotta set up some parameters. For me, it goes to the Google Sheet, then I can take a look at it, then I know I'm not gonna push it to my CRM system, because it's garbage. But then there are times where I do certain events, and I've had an intimate conversation with that person. They gave me a business card, you know, or something. I can find them on LinkedIn. I try to just track it down, find it, like, hey, you know, I don't have your email, or your email was entered in error. Can you provide me with the right email address? Yeah. So we did the quick automation on Make.com, and to kind of take you back, Make, I feel like for the creatives is a lot more easier. Again, it has the AI tools that are built into it. You can use their templates. They have hundreds of templates that any use case you can think of, they have it. Now, if you get into the more complex use cases, it's not going to be there because they're not integrations. And when I say there aren't integrations, what does that mean to integrate? What does that mean? It means that the product developer, like, so the CRM system I'm working with the festival, it's called Copper, used a lot in hospitality, but their product roadmap is minimal. You know, they're sustaining the tool for its existing population. They're not putting in a lot of money in creating custom APIs. So APIs are the pieces of code that help you connect to other systems. They're not developing that for Copper. Whereas like a Salesforce is definitely developing everything under the sun. It's massive, you pay a lot for it, but you get what you pay for. And so they're constantly evolving their technical roadmap and their features that are rolling out for Salesforce. So if there is a connection to be had, it's going to be with Salesforce. Like you can automatically download an API key for Salesforce and be able to integrate Salesforce with other tools. Not so much for Copper, right? So sometimes the things you might want to integrate with Make.com or Zapier may not be available, and it's because those third-party solutions don't have that code that's going to integrate the systems available. So again, you have options on the no code. You can use the Make.com, you can use the Zapier. In both instances, try it. You know, I think they have trials for like a 7-day trial. You can try it, you can play with them both at the same time. You can do the same. I would not encourage you to do the same automation that's performing the same task in both, because it creates errors and then your systems are going to hallucinate. They're never going to figure out what's going on. So like this same one I just did, I wouldn't want to go over on Zapier and do the same thing with the same spreadsheet, because it's going to be so confused. So play with them both and use different examples. Go back to the list that you made in here today. So what were some of the things that showed up on your list in terms of using that RIPE framework? What were some of the things you were thinking that were repetitive? And
Definitely email, but unfortunately right now I'm, in my own world trying to figure out, how I can trust something to respond the way I want. Because right now we're so still one off. We're not in the launch day where there's this repeated, or we're not grooming people yet. To where it's very much one-offs, but I can see when we get there, being able to identify what's low value, hanging fruit, that could just get a generic response versus high value. The other thing I have a question for is, one thing is, if you have somebody, say 5 people, 2 people even, from the same org, do you send them the same templated thank you response, or do you have alterations so that people don't realize you're using, we all know that we're all using like AI.
some tool to help us, go
Yeah,
faster,
manage that, but do you still feel like you should lightly phrase it differently?
I do. I feel
I
an obligation to lightly massage it just a little bit.
So if they ever look, they're not like, oh, we all got the same template, she didn't try very, I don't want that kind of perception.
I try to, and there's ways to do that in leveraging some of these tools and leveraging other tools. So like if you are a Gemini user or you're a ChatGPT user, you can come up with a persona, like a GPT that is specific to responding to your emails. You can have a little nuance in there that involves your branding, the types of questions you might get frequently, and the types of responses you would offer back. So that could be your template, but yes, I would try to tweak it if there are people receiving it from
The same org.
Not unless it's like we're launching. Everybody's gonna get the same email, right? We're launching.
Exactly.
But if it's like you did show up at my booth and then another person from the org showed up at my booth, I might try to put a little something personal in it,
Right.
because we had a conversation.
Yeah, because like the whole email could be the same except for like one line.
Yep.
Where you're able to put it in that spreadsheet and that one line pops in or something.
You remember we talked about that optional tool, and I forget the terminology, the logic? You can actually put in logic for that 2-step process we just created. You can put in a logic to send it to your draft folder.
Oh.
So then you can do those tweaks, right? And it's all gonna be situational. If I'm having this booth and I'm interacting with multiple people, maybe it's a high volume booth and I don't have the bandwidth to do that, they might get the same email. But if it's a little bit more intimate setting, where I can kind of control it a little bit more, less people, then I can put in some logic, goes to the draft box, or everything can go to your draft box. But imagine, like, it still created half the work for you. It collected the information, drafted a note, and sent it to your draft box. Now you need to approve it in order for it to move on. You need to hit send, but then before you hit send, you add those personal pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can connect the external tools with some of these tools. You can connect like the Gemini, the ChatGPT. Gemini is Google's version of, you know, a large language model. A lot of us I use it on a daily for LinkedIn, social post, you know, recreating the emails, my shitty first drafts is what I call them. Yeah, recreating those things so that I can send it out and it sound logical and be clean and concise. You can connect those tools with these tools as well.
Okay.
But that's a great question. It's a great question. So here are the emails. Anybody else have something on their list that they're thinking about going home and testing with a make model? Make or Zapier?
I think LinkedIn and social media, like I'm gonna explore that some.
Yeah. There's some templates on both of the solutions that can help you with that. I would just encourage you to first set up, if you're using like a Gemini or ChatGPT, like for Gemini, it's a gem. Set up a gem that kind of hosts your brand, your voice, what you speak, how you speak, no dashes, no hashtags, you know, give it the prompts and the direction so that when it spits out something, it sounds more like you. And you can do that with a gem or a GPT. And then you can connect them with these tools. We kind of talked about these practical use cases, so I won't go through this, like the lead management, customer communication. So if you're getting the same question over and over again, internal operations, and then best practices. I do want to cover off on this really quickly. You want to start small. Get your feet underneath you. You see real time the struggles that I had, but it is a very intuitive program because it tells you what you did wrong. Then you can think, oh yeah, it's not picking up the right cells, or I don't even have my headers labeled. Let me go back and do that. But start small, start somewhere, and then think about, you know, increasing your zaps or the length of your zaps, the number of zaps. Maybe you move from the free program with a 7-day trial into a paid program and just move from there. So name and document everything. I'm not joking. I'm gonna pull this up just to give you guys a giggle. So I use this notepad for a number of things. This is a potential Zap that I was setting up to aggregate these business feeds. I enjoy reading all of these articles. I don't have the time to go and look for them every day. So I have an automation that pulls them from the internet, sends it to me, summarizes it, and then I read it. Really good content. So I keep this notepad for different things. I even had to do some coding on a website one time. Keep it all of it. Yeah. So use something like this to track what you're doing and save it. So then if you have to go back to it or go back to that step, you know what you've done this far, right? And then test thoroughly. So maybe with this, like Greg and I got a nice test message with our Zap. You want to do that with someone internal or a family friend. You don't want to be testing this on a live audience like I just did. Do it in a safe environment and test it with the family. Like, hey, I set up a Zap, I sent it to you. Can you see if you got it? Can you show me what it looks like? Because you also want to make sure the message is your branding, it makes sense, it looks good, there's not spelling errors, all the things. And then know your limitations. Like, you know, I even have limitations. I just shared with you like the whole coding script that I had. That was for a WordPress site I was trying to fix. And ultimately I ended up asking my developer to help me because I was like, I'm 6 hours into this. This is crazy. Like, get help. So know your limitations because the tools can be complex. And if you have more complex business things you want to automate, you want to get some professionals to help you with that. And this was just a little data on no code and code that happened to cut off. There we go. So I can show you the whole slide. So this just kind of breaks down the business impact. This is really important. I wanted to share with you. I was sharing that earlier, like time saved. That's in essence what I sell. It's like the wasted time and administrative tasks. And this just kind of gives you an idea of that. So error reductions, response times. If you are connecting with people at a booth and you're reaching right back out to them, they're more likely to reach back out to you because you took them seriously and you paid attention, you heard them. And then employee satisfaction as well, because your employees don't want to do the things that are not making them happy, right?
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's say John Doe subscribes to signs onto your Google Sheet,
Mhm.
seeking information. You've mentioned the email, but let's say if it's a company, and let's go to saving time, it's the repetitive question, how does this motor work? Or how does this gyro, how can it extract that information? Let's say you have a catalog
Yeah.
in your business.
Yes. So with both of these tools, with your Zapier and your Makes, you can set up an no-code automation that looks for particular keywords. And so if the keywords are coming over in your inbox, it's going to flag those things, and those are the ones it would automatically reply to. You can set up an automation for that. I've tried that. It hasn't really worked. I've set up one for fun in the beginning for if people were asking for a proposal or pricing, and those were my keywords, right? Nothing's come through yet because when people want to work with you, typically they just reach out. But that would work for those frequently asked questions. If you can create an automation for those types of things, and then they would get an immediate response with a templated email answering those questions. Yeah, that's a good use case. Good use case. All right, so we are out of time, but I do want to leave you with a few things. Make sure that you're practicing your RIPE framework that you used today, and Eugenia has these slides. I would be more than happy for her to share them with you so you can continue on your learning journey. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have a few business cards here. It has a QR code in the back that directly connects on LinkedIn. I share a lot of AI related things, specifically automation and small business. That's my sweet spot. I sell time, right? You get that time back. So connect with me. We're happy to be available to do a one-on-one consultation. And then last but not least, but very important, I wrote a book that I have on, thank you, on Amazon. It's People First AI. It's a playbook, just overall how to eliminate waste to be more efficient. I have a few copies here with me today. If you're interested in grabbing a copy, but it's light. It's just taking you through a process of how might I use AI in my business and where do I start. It expands that RIPE framework, and it's got a place where you can write your notes and all of that good stuff. So that's it for me today. I'm happy to answer any more questions, and grateful for you guys being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I was able to do a Zap and a live demo. Because I was a little nerve-wracking.